Thank you for bringing LA CoMotion to light. Thank you all for traveling, whether it's from 2 blocks away or an ocean away, to be here. And I want you to know that you're in the right place at the right time, in a city that is as exciting as it is improbable. Here we are in a coastal city, just to orient yourself for a moment, and we're not on the coast. Here we are in this place that can lay claim to being the northern capital of Latin America, the western capital of the United States, and the eastern capital of the Pacific Rim. A place where if we didn't have a city, we'd probably need to build one, given what is happening with the world economy, given where innovation is alive. And yet here in Los Angeles, I want to rewind the clock for a moment to give you a sense of where you physically are right now. You're about a half a mile from where the first inhabitants who lived here, Indians who were called Gabrieleno or Tongva Indians, lived in a small village that was adjacent to the Los Angeles River. Now, the Los Angeles River has as much of a fall in about 50 miles, or half as much fall, I should say, in 50 miles, as the Mississippi River does in 2,000 miles. The mountains that you see to the north of here are actually the tallest mountains in America. Not the highest altitude, but from base to top, unlike the Rockies who you get up there over time, they are the tallest mountains from base to top, which means when it rains, the violence of that river goes from a dry river to a very powerful one. It's why Indians settled here. But in the first days when other humans came to this area, Spanish explorers, it was a place in which, the coast was where the action was. 1769, a group of Franciscans came across this river that's just behind us, took communion in the river, christened the river with the name of their patron saint, St. Francis's favorite plot of land called the Porciuncula, or Small Porcine, and named the river El Río de Nuestra Señora la Reina de los Ángeles de Porciuncula, which thankfully we've shortened to LA these days, because that would be a very expensive card for me to have. But they envisioned a city here, and 12 years later, in 1781, before Washington, D.C. was even a city, Los Angeles was born, the first civic settlement of the Spaniards. And why it's interesting that it's not on the coast, it's because of that river, that a coastal city doesn't have its downtown in the ocean. And this place spread out, quite literally, because it had so much flat land and so much drama with the geography, it became a place people wanted to come to. But if we were here 150 years ago, to get to LA, this dusty pueblo of about 1,500 people, this is what you'd have to do. If you came from the East Coast, you'd have to take a boat, you'd have to sail, go maybe through the Panama Canal by then, depending what year, come up the coast. There was no place to stop here on those ships, so you'd have to go to San Francisco, catch a clipper ship, come back to the recently dredged harbor in San Pedro, then get on a dusty ox cart or, if you're lucky, horseback, and take the day-and-a-half journey to downtown. Think about today now, this city, where that same port, together the 2 ports of LA and Long Beach, one bay, one vision, 2 ports, are responsible for 43% of the goods that come into this country. Think about our airport, which displaced New York as the most important air corridor for many decades has been New York to London, intercontinental route. And Los Angeles to China displaced that, and in our lifetimes, I'm sure we will not go back. A place where we have daily flights from Dubai, a place where we now have more people who are of origination and destination in this airport than any airport in America. Atlanta has more passengers, but that's because of hub travel and people who go through. We now have the largest public transportation program anywhere in the country, $120 billion that voters passed in November to allow us to extend or build a new 15 rapid transit lines at once. Never before with that speed have we done that in any city in the United States of America. And LA has always been on the cutting edge of transportation. We've just sometimes been slow. We were there with streetcars when that was the best route. When freeways were the cutting edge revolution technology, LA embraced them. And they worked quite well for about 20 or 30 years until they didn't. And now LA is going kind of back to the future and reimagining what we can do and who we can be. And so to have LA CoMotion here fits into my goal and the goal of this city to be the transportation technology capital of the world. We want your products, your ideas, your vehicles, your visions to come to this fertile ground and our test bed that is LA. This is, after all, a place that has the only city in America that has 3 top 25 universities. We graduate more engineers than any city in America. This is a place where engineers today are putting rovers on Mars, where one man is even with 3 companies reinventing how we get into space, how we tunnel underground, and how we move on the surface of the Earth. And Los Angeles is a place that's constantly asked, what can tomorrow look like? How can we design it? How can we manufacture it? And how can we implement it? So we hope that LA CoMotion will find its home here for many years to come. And what we have here are a combination of partners and businesses that are ready to test your projects and products with you. If you have a great way to move goods, come to the Port of LA. And like GE Capital is doing right now, give us predictive software that can more quickly move those cargo containers from ship to destination. That's good for us, it reduces our pollution. That's good for business, it's good for your bottom line. It's good for all of us to figure out how to do that here first. And we're not the kind of city that says, go test it somewhere else first, come back to us when it works. We want to work through with you until we get it right here. You have a new way to move people through our 3-dimensional space above us. We too dream of the day when we can get in a vertical takeoff and landing vehicle in, let's say, Glendale to the north of here, and get in the middle of rush hour traffic to Century City in 12 minutes at a fifth the price of Lyft or Uber today. Or maybe it'll be a Lyft to Uber, but it'll be aerial. We want to see ways that we can build quicker, whether it's the Boring Company that is looking at how we can change the actual technology. And footsteps away from here, we've got boring machines that are building a subway underneath downtown. Or whether it's the ways that we can look at the modular housing that you see behind us, so that when we build transportation, we're building housing that works to solve our challenges like homelessness, poverty, opportunities for our young people. I think John is right. There has been a revolution. But if you think about it, the IT revolution has mostly been about how we talk and communicate and how we buy things. They have been revolutionary, but make no mistake, they haven't been about the 3-dimensional space that we live in. Now is that moment. Because transportation is not just about how people move. It is the prism through which we refract everything. If you have a housing crisis like we do in Los Angeles, it's because you haven't gotten transportation right. If you have a health crisis, it's often because you don't have transportation right. If you have a poverty crisis, it's often because transportation hasn't gotten it right. If we fix transportation, if we innovate, we can look at what Aristotle once wrote in Politics, that the city came into being to preserve life, but it exists for the good life. In other words, we don't come to cities just to be safe. We come to find and to define what the good life means to each one of us. So here where we have that, where we have a partner in Metro, which I chair the board of, which is 88 cities in LA County, that are changing the way we look at roads, that are changing the way that we move about, that has a policy that today you can bring us ideas before we put a request for proposals out there, and unsolicited bids can come to us because you can solve a problem better than we can. Like the X Prize, we want you to spend your money, come to us with your innovation, not fit the solution into only our box, but to figure out the best ways you're looking at changing things and how you can make them happen. And then we can sit down and start negotiating. We've got electric buses. The Department of Transportation, Salita Reynolds, who's the head of our DOT, is here. And we're looking at ways that we can make sure that you have a single app so that you can go from a taxi to a Uber to our shared car system, which we launched an EV share system here that's targeted at low-income communities, the first city in America to do that. So that this revolution doesn't just happen for those who have the capital, but those who have the need as well. It's here where we are willing to work with you over the next 11 years. As the Olympics comes back to America, and in 2028 Los Angeles hosts the Olympics, we see a transportation revolution happening. That magic dust of the Olympics, this can be a showcase for what you're doing right here. So when the world comes here in 2028, they will see what we have accomplished. We can see the city that we have changed. We can see the modes of transit that we have innovated in. We can see the urban planning that we have done around that. So for LA CoMotion, I would just say, continue every year to bring your dreams here. And don't just bring them to share verbally with each other. Come to us in the city and ask me, Dan Rodman, where's Dan? Someone around here? Over here, right there waving. If you got a crazy idea, come talk to him from my transportation team. Look at ways that you can say, I need to test that in LA. And maybe I need to locate that business in LA. Because we can put the capital behind that. Whether it's a brand new way of looking at monorail, like we're seeing emerge in China, we want to test that here first. Whether it's electric vehicles, and today we have the largest electrical vehicle fleet of any municipality in America. In fact, every non-cruiser that's LAPD car, a police car, is now an electric car, saving us 40% the first year we have them, and very quiet, so it's good for police work because it can creep up on people. But we want to make sure that we have 100% electric buses by 2030, if not long before. We just signed a clean air action plan at the ports of LA and Long Beach to look at innovating to a zero-emission technology future, from the equipment that unloads those cargo containers to the trucks that will take them forward. I know tonight you see Tesla is going to be unveiling its new long-haul truck that will be EV as well. We know how to innovate here in Los Angeles. We know how to connect, and I'll close with this. We're not just proud of the minds that we have here. We're proud of the values that we embody here. I recently was with the mayor of Seoul, Korea, Mayor Park. Great guy, great mayor. And he said, we want to be more like Los Angeles. And I asked him, what do you mean? And he said, well, we've had an amazing ride in Korea. We went from one of the poorest nations to one of the wealthiest. We've seen this revolution in our business and our technology. But we also know that we're monocultural. And we see that we won't be able to innovate, attract people, continue to grow if we don't have cultural diversity like you have in Los Angeles. And I hope that for all of you, no matter where you come from, whether it is, the Inland Empire or whether it's the Middle East, that you see something familiar in this city, a place where 250 different cultures are here, 39 countries with their largest population outside their home country. At a time when national voices are talking about division, we don't just have diversity, we have unity of purpose here. We will work with you to make sure that if you test it here, it will succeed anywhere in the world. So when I come back next year to LA CoMotion, I can't wait to see the ideas that we have here in booths, the technology that we see swirling around us is actually on the streets of LA. And we will test those things with you, whether it's Metro, looking at a way that we can do our own kind of public transportation rideshare that combines jitneys with good technology buses and an ability to rethink our urban tapestry, whether it's getting rid of cars on certain streets in Los Angeles or the requirement to even have parking in our buildings downtown, whether it's looking at the ways that we can have, maybe by next year, people inside aerial drones that are taking them from one part of town to another. LA will be that place that will represent the future. And we're investing in our young people to make sure that happens too. The first transportation school that will really raise up the transportation engineers and technologists of tomorrow will be here in just a couple years. So come here with your ideas, come here with your values, come here with your excitement. And I guarantee you that this city of angels, this place that used to have a dusty horse ride to get to where we are, you can come from probably 15 different ways. But one thing I guarantee you when you get here, that you will find your dreams. Thank you so much and have a great conference.